Hello everyone. I'm going to talk to you about the simple present in this video. It's probably one of the first verb forms that anybody studies when they learn any language. But in English, it's actually also one of the most commonly used forms in speaking and in writing. So let's review this simple present. I always like to start my videos by explaining the form, so what it looks like, and then I explain when we use it. So I'll start with looking at what verbs look like with different subjects when we use the simple present. So as you can see here, I already have written down some words with my favorite verb, run. So I have I run, you run, he runs, she runs, it runs, they run, we run. And so you can see that there's one part that's different. And that is the S that's added to these subjects. And what that's called, and it's really important, is third person singular. So really, when you're writing a sentence and you're using a verb in the present tense, pay attention to the subject of your sentence, right? Who or what is doing the action or being something. If it's I, if it's you, if it's they, if it's we, the verb doesn't really change. But if it's third person singular, that means he or she or it, anything, a name of a person, marker, right? And even now you start to see the word they being used to refer to one person also sometimes, okay? So when you see third person singular as the subject, the only thing you have to remember is to add an S to that verb in most cases, okay? Unless it's an irregular verb. But the way I like to tell my students to remember is to think of that S as a $sign. And every time you forget that $sign, you lose $1 or something. Okay, so that's the only thing you have to remember for that part. Now let's look at some examples in affirmative for the present tense, simple present, negative, and then questions. Okay, let's start with an affirmative statement using a regular, just any regular verb, run, okay? Here's the sentence. She runs a lot. Subject is she, so it's third person singular. The verb is run, so we need to have that S at the end. She runs a lot. That is an affirmative statement. Something really tricky in English is when we make a negative statement. We can't just say she not runs. I wish, that would be great, but we can't do that. Instead, we have to add a helping verb. Why? Because we need help. In English, we need help when we need to make something negative and when we want to make a question. So in this case, because this verb is not a helping verb, and by the way, helping verbs are verbs that come before other verbs, like usually the be verb or have when it's used as the present in present perfect, or modals. Those are all helping verbs. Here, we just have a verb. We don't have a helping verb. We need to add a helping verb to help us make a negative statement. So remember that. To make negative statements in English and to make questions, we need help, okay? So the helping verb that you need to use is do. So you'll say she, and now you add do. But wait just a second. Make sure the subject agrees with the verb. That's called subject-verb agreement. The subject is third person singular. The verb needs to agree with that subject. So is it she do or she does? It's she does. You should have an S at the end of the verb in the present tense because the subject is third person singular. So, she does not. Now, this is where we put the negative. We put the negative after the helping verb. You could even push them together. It's called a contraction. And put an apostrophe where the missing letter went. So you're pushing two words together. Doesn't run a lot. She doesn't run a lot. She doesn't run a lot. Now we have a negative statement. Let's make a question. Let's make a yes-no question. A yes-no question means the answer is yes or no. So remember, when you make a question in English, you need help and you need a helping verb. In this case, because the form of the verb is simple present, you need to add do, okay? So, and you start the sentence, question, you start the question with the helping verb, okay? So you're gonna put, does she run a lot? Question mark, don't forget the question mark. So here we started with the helping verb and then we have the subject. So if you look at the other sentences, you'll see that we start with the subject and then go to the verb, subject, verb, subject, verb. Most sentences in English are subject, verb. But for questions, you switch it and you put verb, subject. So does she run a lot? And then the answer, short answer can be yes. She, now here we just need the helping verb. Yes, she does, or no, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. Okay, I want to point something else out right here, which is the verb. When we do add a helping verb, like here we have a helping verb, and here we have a helping verb. When we add a helping verb, the helping verb is the verb that agrees with the subject. The main verb, the important one, that shows the meaning of the sentence, base form, simple form, no change, for simple present, Okay, now what about a WH question? What would that look like? So you can pick a WH word like who, what, when, where, why, how. So how about why? Why does she run a lot? Running's hard. Why does she do that? Why does she run a lot? Here again, we're just starting with the question word, and then again, we have the verb and then the subject, and then the main verb is in the base form. Why does she run a lot? She runs a lot because she enjoys being outside. Whatever your answer is. This is how you make these affirmative, negative, and question forms using the simple present. Now I'm going to show you again using a really common verb, the be verb. Okay, so here we are using the be verb. And as a review, when we have the be verb, okay, be, there's actually three forms in the present tense. So you can have am, I am, right? You can have is, that's for third person singular, like she, he, it, you know, a person's name, the window, a marker, is, right? And then are is for we, they, you, okay? So remember there's three. This is called an irregular verb, okay? So to make the be verb in simple present, I'm using the subject she again, that's third person. So I need to make sure that the verb agrees with the subject. So she is a runner. Great. Okay, that's an affirmative statement. Let's make it negative. How do we do that? Well, I just said that when you want to make a statement negative in English, you need help. But you actually only need help when you don't have a helping verb. And I'm just going to say, to make it easy, that the be verb is, it's always a helping verb. Maybe that's not the technical way to explain that, but if you have the verb be in your sentence already, you don't need to add another helping verb to help you make it negative or a question. All you got to do is add not. So, she is not a runner. She is not. That's it. Isn't that easy? But too bad most of English is not like that. Okay, how about yes, no questions? Again, remember, for most statements, we have subject, verb. But for questions, we do verb, subject. So here's the verb. So just move it to the front. Is she a runner? Don't forget the question mark. Is she a runner? And the answer is yes, she is. You just need the helping verb or the verb here. Or no, she isn't. We could also make a WH question like why? Why is she a runner? Why? Why does she do that? Why is she a runner? Verb, subject, after the question word. Okay, so that's using the simple present with a very common verb, be. Now I'm going to talk to you about why or when we actually use the simple present, which I think is really important to know. Okay, so when do we use the simple present? There's a few times when we need to make sure that we're using the simple present. The first thing we need to know is that we use the simple present whenever we're talking about something that is a habit, a routine, something that happens again and again and again and again and again. Okay, so habits and routines. So like, I run every day, or she usually eats lunch at 12, or they almost never study after dinner. Okay, those are habits, those are routines. Okay, now we also use the simple present when we're talking about scientific facts. So, science, facts, things that are always true. So if it's always true, it's a general thing that doesn't change, we're going to use the simple present. Like, it is warm in Southern California most of the year. Or, I don't know, in the water freezes at 0 degrees. Things like that. Okay, the other time that we use the simple present is, and I already mentioned it up here, but I want to be really clear, is when we use this thing called frequency adverbs. That's just a fancy name for words like always, often, usually, sometimes, rarely, never. These words, these are called frequency adverbs, and what they do is they help us to understand how often something happens. So when we're talking about how often, we're talking about habits and routines, right? So whenever you want to use one of these words or you hear it or something, most of the time you need to use the simple present if you're talking about something that happens again and again and again. Okay, so these words go from the most often to the least often, almost never. Okay, and also about these words, the frequency adverbs, be careful with where you put them I can do another video on that because that's a lot of information. But frequency adverbs can go in a lot of different places, but to make it easier for you, the easy way I think to remember to use them is to, see, always is here, is to put the frequency adverb right after the subject. So that means right before the verb, if the verb is not be. If the verb is be, you have to put it after be, okay? That causes people a lot of problems, okay? So there's a lot more to that, but I'm just gonna put that there, okay? And the fourth reason and time when we use the simple present is when we're using a verb that can't be used in the progressive form, and those are called non-action verbs. A non-action verb is a verb that cannot be used with ing, basically, like know. I know you, I know grammar, I know the answer, but I can't say I am knowing you, I am knowing grammar. I can never say that because know is a non-action verb. So even if I want to say that I know something right now and only right now, I can never use it with ing. But what I can do is use it with the simple present and say right now, I know the answer, I know it, okay? And that's with all non-action verbs, which we have a video on if you want to watch that. Okay, so that is when you use the simple present. I hope this helps you. Bye.